Coach
Great.
Davidson, thank you so much for your time. Really looking forward to chatting with you. For the listeners at home, will you tell us a little bit about your background and kind of where you are currently?
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate you asking me to be on, man. From Colorado and went to University of Wyoming and started there to wrestle. And I was a
Mm,
walk on.
okay.
It was one of those things where I had gone to a lot of camps with high school, and I just really loved it up there. And
Yeah.
so I went there to be on the wrestling team. And um, the couple things that I really loved about that was the
Yeah.
weight room.
Okay.
And I actually wasn't a great weightlifter, but being around that environment, having those strength coaches, and just
Hmm.
learning that world
Yeah.
was really fun for me. And I really loved the weight room. And I actually kind of jumped around from
Mm.
major to major as a freshman, kind of like you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And I was just kind of thrown into this athletic training
Hmm.
uh, curriculum,
Okay.
and it was okay, and I liked the schooling, but as a trainer, I didn't like it. So I ended up stopping being a trainer
Mm.
and went and worked as an intern in the weight room,
Okay.
and which was great. Those coaches were awesome, letting me
Yeah.
go in there and start working, and the wrestling thing didn't work out. I got
Mm.
hurt during that first year and just never really. I tried to come back a few times, didn't
Mm.
work out. So that injury it kind of ended me as a wrestler, and
Mm.
I was trying to find ways of staying with the team. That was really
Yeah.
important with me. I really kind of grew to love that.
Hmm.
And so a way that I could stay with the guys was be in the weight room with them.
Yeah.
So the strength coaches allowed me to come in and work with the wrestling team,
Okay.
and I helped track and field a lot, and
Hmm.
then I observed some football and some volleyball, but the
Mm.
main two that I really worked with were wrestling and track and field. So
Mm.
that's really what kept me going
Yeah.
through the next couple of years until like I actually did an official internship with them my senior year.
Hmm.
And when that was done, I was graduated, and it
Okay.
was like, what do I do with an ex-phys degree?
Yeah.
I didn't know. I thought I was going to go back home and
Yeah.
continue working for my dad, who owns a construction business, and
Hmm.
that was kind of my plan. And then
Yeah.
Coach Gabe Teeple was working there at the time, and he comes up and he goes, "Hey, I know a guy at Marshall. Do you want to be a strength coach and go to
Hmm.
grad school?" And it took me 2 seconds to say yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, "Really? Like, yeah, of course I do." So I ended up getting that job and leaving a few days later. Just
Okay.
packed the truck and left.
Yeah.
Drove from Laramie to West Virginia, which is a guy that I had never been east of
Yeah.
Nebraska
Yeah.
at that time. So I just picked up and left and went to
Okay.
Marshall for a year doing
Yeah.
grad school.
Uh-huh.
That was a great year of getting thrown into it. John
Yeah.
Sanderson was our boss there. He's the basketball guy at Michigan,
Okay.
and that was a great experience because it was him. We were just Olympic side, no football,
Okay.
and it was him and then 5 GAs.
Mm. Wow.
And
Okay.
so John was there, but he put a lot of that stuff on us.
Yeah.
And it was one of those situations where you either learned and you did it
Hmm.
and you succeeded, or you failed big time. And
Yeah.
what was great about those 5 GAs was the five of us were such differing personalities
Yeah.
and where we ultimately wanted to go with training.
Hmm.
But the one thing we had in common is we had an incredible passion for it. We worked hard, and we all
Yeah.
wanted it more than anything.
Yeah.
Um, one of the guys I did that year with is Daniel Roos, who's at Texas with basketball right
Okay.
now. And
Yeah, I'm familiar.
that's just one of the guys that sticks in my head. He's still doing it. A lot of us were. It was just really fun year. But anyway, to move on, I was there for about 10 months or so. Followed John to Clemson.
Hmm.
He took the basketball job there. I went to be his assistant. I
Okay.
did basketball and swimming for about 10 months.
Hmm.
And then I got the head job at College Charleston.
Mm.
I was a director there for 2 years.
Yeah.
And that was a very cool experience.
Yeah.
Was pretty young, 24. Just really was a fun couple of years.
Yeah.
Met my wife there. She was coaching volleyball. And she got the opportunity to come up back to Penn State, where she had played,
Mm.
to be an assistant coach with Russ Rose. And so I actually followed her up here.
Okay.
And, geez, this summer is going to start my 11th year.
Wow.
So it's one of those things where you're like, what do I want to be a director and
Yeah.
follow her and be a volunteer for a little bit?
Yeah.
And that's what I did, and it was scary at the time, but it's obviously worked out, and it's gone very well. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing now.
That's an awesome story. And so, what kind of things, as far as being a wrestler, right, what do you think that you've learned, and even being injured, that have been able to transfer into your coaching philosophy or just your general philosophy now?
on from being injured is one of those things where you kind of learn how to, because back then you just worked hard and you worked through it.
Yeah. There was no such thing. Yeah.
You just got to be tough.
Yeah.
You're going to be tough and you're going to make it, or you're not tough and you're going to not make it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't make it through that injury. I don't think I wasn't tough, but it was one of those things where it kind of opened my eyes to what's a way to, if someone's got something going on,
Yeah.
how do we structure our workout or change that workout in a way that fits this person? So
Yeah.
I used to write everything as, or I had this thought of training where everybody went through it no matter what.
Yeah.
And then so what that injury taught me was people are going to get injured. They're going to have differences. What if this girl's a spondy? What if she has an issue that just back squats isn't working?
Yeah.
I think you just have to say, you know what, okay, it's not going to work. Let's find another way to get it done. That's really what helped me through that is be empathetic to those person's situation. And just as a strength coach, it's your job to figure it out.
Yeah.
You got to get it done. So that's how I looked at it through that injury was, it's not always somebody being mentally weak or it's something that's going on and we need to work around that. It's really how it helped me.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. And so with that, right, you moving forward a little bit, you talked about how young you were as a director at College of Charleston. So will you kind of talk about what you've been able to learn in such a incredibly fast development of moving from, you said you did the 10-month position and then not long after you're a director?
Yeah, it was fast. And I think the main thing that helped me back then was I was just able to coach, I think. The biggest thing for me was it was just hammered. I learned from excellent mentors at Wyoming. Scott Bennett, Tim Saha, Gabe Teeple, Coach Kathy Crow-Wagner. All those mentors were awesome in terms of, at that time at Wyoming, it wasn't one of those things where I was learning a lot about programming.
Okay.
I learned how to do things from the ground floor. My job was to make shakes and clean the weight room. And you learn how to do things extremely well at the ground floor. And so when you do that and you move up, once you're an assistant, you're still doing those things. If you want to say the sweep the sheds, it's kind of like that. You learn how to do it from the ground up. You do it extremely well, and then you can move on. It's not putting the cart before the horse, so to speak. It's learning how things are done, and you do it extremely well, and you're vocal. You learn how to coach, and I think that's what worked for me was I learned how to be a great assistant from those great mentors. And then when it came time for me to be a director, when I was interviewing and things for that job, they actually asked me. They go, "You're one of the youngest applicants. Why should we hire you?" And I said, because I've done everything, and I'm ready for this next step. I'm confident in this next step. And I think I don't think it should take a long time to learn those things. Once you learn how to be an assistant, clean the weight room, do it extremely well, you're ready to move on. Like, why do you have to be an assistant for more than that? I didn't see any reason why I shouldn't have that job and be ready for that step. And and to kind of saying that, it makes you think like, you're never really going to be ready until you're thrown in and you're ready. I was never ready to be a dad until I had my daughter. Like the day I had my daughter, I was ready. The day I got hired as the director, I was ready. You know what I mean? So it was just I was really fortunate and really lucky to have those people helping me. I had a lot of help getting those jobs. You know what I mean? So that was extremely helpful. And what I learned being so young is I was really moving fast back then, and I made some very quick decisions. It's almost like back then I would act first, apologize later, kind of a thing. And
easier to ask for forgiveness, right?
Sorry?
Easier to ask for forgiveness than permission, right?
Well, back then I would, yes.
That's the youth.
Yeah, and it worked well for me. But what I've learned is really how to take a step back and be just really empathetic of everyone's situation and taking it as you're a part of a whole. It's not just a bulldozing strength and conditioning department. And, you know what I mean? So that's really what I've learned is it's a piece in this much bigger puzzle, and just kind of how to do things. Take a step back, be empathetic, think
Yeah.
things through, and
Yeah.
that's kind of what I learned the most.
No, that's a good answer, and I think it's really interesting the part that where you talked about readiness, right? A lot of us younger coaches are never. Well, some of us want to jump ship right as soon as possible, and then others are nervous and fearful of not being ready, quote unquote, right? And so I think that's important. What you said is you're not going to be ready necessarily until you take the step. Yes, you have to get the prerequisite, but like you said, right, you have to learn from the ground floor up. But once you've got that, right, you won't be ready until you step forward. So I think that's really important.
Right.
And then kind of moving forward a little bit, right? So you're a competitive weightlifter, or you have been. How has being a competitive weightlifter kind of shaped your view of things?
I think it's really helped teach my eye on what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And I thought it was I'd always have that problem of keeping the bar close. Coaching my athletes, why can't you keep the bar close after me saying keep the bar close 1,000 times?
Simple, right?
And yeah, it's one of those things where weightlifting really taught me that it kind of just opened my feelings to it and my eyes to it. And once I was able to see it and feel it, it really helped me coach those little things. So just changing something, how, instead of getting clear back on the heel, staying more of a full foot, how does that affect bar path?
Yeah.
Just little things like that really help me. And it's not like I'm training weightlifters, but those little nuances of technique really help me coach it and verbalize that to the athlete. So that's what weightlifting really taught me. And it takes a long time to be proficient as a weightlifter.
Yeah.
It took me 3 years.
Wow,
to really realize what weightlifting was, and that was me training 5 to 6 days a week, sometimes double sessions, and so for that to take me 3 years, you realize that our athletes are not weightlifters.
Yeah.
But I don't really use that as an excuse. I'm still going to do the movement, the exercises. It's just, you're never complacent. But what is good enough for these athletes? What is proficient enough to elicit a good response from that exercise? And that's what weightlifting really helped me with. It was mostly just the nuances of technique.
Okay.
And lastly, I am not a naturally mobile or flexible person.
Okay.
By any means. I'm really not. I'd go through the static stretching and the mobility, but I never really gained a lot of mobility.
Yeah.
And this is really talking about weightlifting here. I never gained the mobility to catch a clean or a snatch in the hole.
Okay.
Until weightlifting made me get in those positions.
Yeah.
And so that kind of opened my eyes. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to build mobility, I have to get in the position.
Position specific. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. If you want to build mobility, you have to get in that position. Whatever that position is, you have to force yourself to get in that position. Once you get into that position and you start building that mobility, now you need to get there enough to build strength at that mobility.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if you get that extra range of motion and you're weak, that's dangerous.
Yeah. Can't control.
Now that's really my thought applied to weightlifting, and I think you can apply that to other movements and sport specific. So if you want your athletes to get into positions on the field or the ice, etc. Just get them in the position, build the mobility, then build the strength. That's as simple as I can say it.
Yeah.
Take that where you want in how you want to apply that. But that's how I make things a little bit, I hate to say this, but a little bit sport specific is if we can be strong in certain positions with that range of motion, we'll be more healthy in terms of injury prevention type things.
No, I agree 100%.
Injury reduction maybe is a better way to say it.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
And then another interesting point, you were talking about how good is proficient enough, right? And so I think that's really important to see it from both sides of the coin, right? Because again, the athletes we train, the team sports athletes are not weightlifters, right? So they don't have to be as proficient as an Olympic weightlifter, but at the same time, if we're not consistently coaching it, then what is our purpose as a coach, right? So
exactly, and I think the proficient enough is up to the coach.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I want my athletes to be as good at it as they can be.
Yeah.
Because if I can get them to be more of a leg lifter and put force into the ground, then that force is better trained. It's better applicable to what we're doing. If I have my volleyball girls be extremely hip dominant with the Olympic lifts, I'm not okay with that. I want them to be more leg specific. I want them to drive their legs, not just throw their hips forward.
Yeah.
Hip extension, or triple extension to say that. It's triple extension is achieved by leg drive.
Yeah.
By pushing your feet and your legs, the hips will extend. It's not just simply by pushing your hips horizontally.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have that vertical force. And so, again, I'm getting into weightlifting here,
Yeah.
but if I can train that good leg drive, that good force application
Mm-hmm.
better than I did 2 years ago, then
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to continue to do that.
Yeah.
And if it takes them until their junior year to have that aha moment of,
Mm-hmm.
wow, okay, this is what it really feels like.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't take that long, but sometimes it does. Sometimes we have that athlete that just
Yeah.
doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you'll have an athlete that gets it in a week
Yeah.
as a freshman, and you're good. But some people don't get it for a long time.
No, I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
But once they get it, man, it feels good. And then
Mm-hmm.
you really start being confident and comfortable with that lift. And then I think it can really do something for you. Whether
Agreed.
that be a
Yeah.
clean or a snatch or a jerk or a squat or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and that's the other thing. Like, we're not powerlifters either, but I coach the crap out of a squat.
Yeah.
I'm going to make the squat as good as it can be.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I don't want to waffle on that,
Yeah.
but that's kind of where my head is with those
Yeah.
things.
No, I think that's a really, really good point, right? And kind of moving forward with training, let's kind of key in a little bit on training for hockey, right? So how do you kind of structure the weight training program for the hockey players, and what are some nuances to be aware of when working with that kind of group?
I'm a big Monday, Wednesday, Friday guy.
Okay.
I like the full body lifts.
Mm-hmm.
And how I do that, if I can start with just early off season. So
Yeah.
after the season, we took a little break.
Okay.
I looked Monday, Wednesday, Friday, full body training, and very, very linear. I take it back to the real meat and potatoes.
Okay.
Very linear. Just let's get back to what really working hard, and we always work hard. Don't get me wrong, but it's like one of those things where we're going to keep it simple. We're going to do cleans for 5 sets of 5. We're going to do squats for 4 sets of 6. We're gonna, so on and so forth. It's just meat and potatoes. Let's get back to what it feels like to really train at this very simple, very basic linear thing. We do that for about a month.
Okay.
And it's simple, but it's not easy, right? So when we move into summer, our summer one looks more like it's still Monday, Wednesday, Friday, pretty much all summer. But early summer, it starts getting more undulating.
Yeah.
So I like to go a month linear, very basic stuff, and then I get into undulating, where I have the emphasis of the day, where Monday's my medium intensity, medium volume, my Wednesday is my high intensity, low volume, and Friday is high volume, low intensity.
Okay.
If you've read Triphasic from Cal, it's very much like that.
Okay.
I really like that way of training. It's what that really helped me with was that switching of the days where your Wednesday's your max effort day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you can recover better from that Friday into that Monday. I really like that a lot. It's worked really well for me.
Okay.
So that first summer session is very triphasic, very very undulating triphasic. We do the isos and the eccentrics and that, and then after that cycle, we'll go into it's still undulating, but we drop down to that power phase.
Okay.
So less of a max strength thought, more of a power phase, and then into preseason. I just have kind of a in betweener. Like we'll have it won't be a definite max effort cycle or a power cycle, but it's kind of blurring the lines a little bit, getting ready for season.
Okay.
And I just the way I program that's my basic thought of philosophy is I'm just going to work this through, get them strong, get them in shape, get them fast.
Yeah.
In season, it does change. Most of the time I train Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Okay.
Because we don't practice a ton. We practice a lot, but they're not long.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So our guys aren't really fatigued from practices. So actually I love hockey because we play on the weekends, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
And so that training from our games start in October. So October to April, I think hockey has the longest, best training block of any sport.
Okay.
That you can keep consistent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so in the weight room, I keep Monday my strength day. It's about an hour and 15. Tuesday's a power day. It's more about 45 minutes. And then Wednesday's my speed day where I keep it at 30 minutes.
Okay.
So basically it's a descending intensity through the week and ascending speed.
Okay.
And descending duration. So we get that strength work in, but we're going to have that speed work. We're going to have the power work, but we're rested for the games on Friday, Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Okay.
And the scratches, the guys that are scratched kind of have a little different template. They train Friday and Saturday as well. But that's basically what I'm doing with weight training.
Okay.
With hockey through the year. And in season, I'm not a maintain guy in season.
Yeah.
I'm a let's push it. Push it when you can push it.
Yeah.
Rest them when you need to rest them. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And as long as we are rested and peaked for certain big games, right? Because you don't want to lose. You want to put them in a position to lose games. But how do you peak for that championship season? And then just having them rested when you need to rest. That's my biggest thing with that point.
Okay.
So conditioning with that looks more like, since I'm doing that undulating and the end of the week is more of the aerobic side.
Yeah.
My aerobic based workouts will be Thursday or Saturday.
Okay.
And we will do some plyos those days, but it's mostly going to be aerobic capacity, aerobic threshold, aerobic output kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then the Tuesday will be more of the alactic work, your accelerations, your speed, contrast sprinting with sleds.
Yeah.
Just more of the alactic speed is going to be Tuesday. The more aerobic is going to be late.
Okay.
That's how I structure my conditioning.
Yeah.
In season, obviously, I don't do a ton of conditioning. We let the ice do that.
Yeah.
We let practices do that, and games.
Okay.
So that's how the conditioning and speed looks like with that. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get to that full question. The nuances with hockey.
Yeah.
The nuances that I do with hockey. So all my programs, really, I write with the thought of being very balanced.
Yeah.
If I'm working anterior, I'm working posterior with it. If I'm working like, so that meaning, if I'm going to do a front squat, that's very anterior.
Yeah.
I'll do something posterior. So if I think about the shoulder being forward and I'm training anterior with the front squat, I'll have something with the shoulder moving backward and training posterior. So I'll superset things like front squat with a lat pull down with a prone one arm Y raise or a trap raise, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Very anterior, posterior. And that's as simple as I can say it. If I'm doing a barbell glute bridge or an RDL, I'll do something like a Palloff press. Just very balanced.
Yeah.
Very, very simple in my mind in that. But the nuance is if you lose any kind of range of motion in the hips, you're in trouble.
Okay.
Hips for the hockey player, this took me about a year or two to really understand and realize, is you cannot lose any mobility. And if you do, you're going to be in a tough spot. And a lot of these guys have issues with their hip. A lot of decreased range of motion, a lot of bone spurs in that.
Yeah.
And those are things you have to work around. So the nuances of everybody has to squat to 90 and below, that can't happen. You want to get them there.
Yeah.
As a strength coach, you want to get them there, but
you
some
have to look
guys
out.
some guys can't, they shouldn't, and so you do other things.
Yeah.
But basically what I really want to say with that is keeping mobility, flexibility, and strength in a large range of motion in the hips will keep that hockey guy feeling healthy, and it is crazy important. So that's a big nuance for me is when I write for hockey, I'm always keeping in mind how that hip is moving and how we can keep that healthy.
Yeah. Okay.
Other nuances is I don't want them being too big.
Yeah.
So a lot of my programming for them is, unless they need hypertrophy, some guys do, but a lot of them, I want their lower body being strong, big, and powerful. I don't need them to be big upper body. Be very lean, but very strong, very quick.
Okay.
So those are really the nuances I'm thinking of when it comes to hockey training.
Okay. And then kind of going back, you talked a little bit about your undulating cycle, right? So when you have that, say, those intensities with Wednesday being your high intensity, does the training cycle through and then the intensity stay the same? For example, if you're doing a max effort back squat on Wednesday, 1 week, would the next week, would that move forward to, say, Monday? Or how does that look?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. To simply answer that.
Yeah.
I'm not married to any exercise.
Okay.
We have a testing board, but I'm not handcuffed to that testing board.
Yeah.
And I say that I like to switch things up. I don't want to do a front squat on my Wednesday all year.
Okay.
I don't want to do that. What really opened my eyes to changing things up like that was when I really took into account that max effort single leg training is really, really, really good.
Okay. And
I used to be, if it's an emphasis lift for the lower body, it's going to be a squat or a deadlift.
Okay.
And in the last 5-6 years, I've transitioned to, well, why can't this max effort be a single leg thing?
Yeah.
And I still squat. We still squat heavy. We still deadlift heavy. But now we'll do single leg training heavy for max effort days.
Okay.
And the reason why I answered that way is I think it would be putting your athletes in a bad spot if you would just do so the Hatfield split squat or the Hatfield roof foot elevated is really popular, right?
Yeah.
you can't do that on a max effort day without training it and preparing your athletes to do that. So the way that I do things like that is I might add in the dumbbell Bulgarian on a Friday and make that my volume day.
Okay.
And then I'll transition that into maybe a barbell front squat rear foot elevated on a Monday, or just a regular bar on your back split squat on a Monday.
Okay.
So if I want something to be max effort on Wednesday, I'll plan that a couple cycles later.
Okay.
And then the cycle I'm at right now, it'll either come in on Friday or a Monday, and it will be introduced as a volume day or the medium intensity, medium volume day, and those movements will work well to transition into the Hatfield.
Okay, almost like a practice session, yeah.
Right. So just to answer this a little bit, I guess simply, cycle 1, I'll do dumbbell rear foot elevated on Friday, 3 sets of 12 each leg, something simple.
Yeah.
The next cycle, it will be on Monday, and it will be maybe a safety bar split squat on Monday for 4 sets of 6 each leg.
Okay.
And then the cycle after that, it will now be the Hatfield split squat on a Wednesday going to max effort.
Okay. Gotcha.
So I like to introduce it that way. If I introduce things sometimes, so that's one way I do it. Another way I do it is if I don't want to take the time to introduce it on the Friday and do volume, I'll introduce it as a speed movement on the Monday.
Okay.
Let's take a sumo deadlift, for example. If I want to go max effort on a sumo deadlift on a Wednesday, then I'll introduce it on a Monday the cycle before as speed.
Okay.
Not the true West Side speed, not the 40 to 55% with accompanying resistance type stuff. I'm talking about taking a sumo deadlift on a Monday and getting about to what you think would be around your 70%. Do it for 6 sets of 2.
Okay.
Next week, go 73% for 6 sets of 2.
Yeah.
So it's not your true speed, but it is speed work.
Yeah. Okay.
The intent is there.
Yeah.
And then, so now I'm doing 6 sets of 2 on the minute on a Monday with it, and now I feel comfortable putting it in on a Wednesday, now doing heavy triples on a sumo deadlift. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's how I like to really use that undulating as not only that training in the cycle, but it really sets me up nicely for movements I want to introduce later.
Yeah, I really like that.
So it sets you up for things you want to do, but what I really like about it is you always have that constant thought of what did I do? What am I going to do later? So what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
So every cycle you write in terms of movements, in terms of emphasis, in terms of is it strength, speed, power, what did you do? What are you doing now? And where are you going to go?
Okay.
So I've always liked that as a natural flowing philosophy, periodization, and just how do things work? I put something on Twitter last year about how I progressed to single leg training.
Yeah.
And had a couple coaches actually try it and talk to me, get back to me. Justin Smith of Vermont was one of those guys.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to see how he liked the progression or what he didn't like about it. And so anyway, I'm kind of getting on a tangent here, but that's pretty much how I do it. That's how I like to have that thought of just continually going. And what I was talking about was, did this way of introducing it work well?
Okay.
And if it didn't work well, let's change it. And so that's why I like the way of doing it that way. Is this, you always kind of have this growth of how is it working? How can it get better?
I like that. Okay. So with that, right, you kind of talked about the conditioning, but what about speed work for hockey? How does that look? And is there a lot more ice time? Is there any dry land, or what does that even look like?
Mostly dry land for me.
Okay.
The season's October to April, deeper into April if you're doing well. And so I don't do any on ice until summer too.
Okay.
And a big reason for that is they skated all year.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of stress on the body. That skating stride is not really a natural thing.
Yeah.
Let's get them off the ice, give them some time off of there, because they are actually still going to go out there and do some individual work and play on their own. Okay. So I really like to just get them away from it. So it's mostly dry land. Okay. And my speed day will be, so Tuesday we'll start with plyos, and it's just natural progression. We start with deceleration work, we work up to more advanced plyos like depth jumps into a sprint, so on and so forth. I think a lot of people already know that progression. I won't get into that too much. It's very simple. Okay. The thing that I always really want to pay attention to is we do a little bit more single leg in terms of that. I used to be more double leg based. Now I'm more single leg based. Yeah. That might be the single leg nature of hockey. Okay. But I think that could be applied to everywhere else. But I do a lot of plyos to start. Yeah. And then we'll do a lot of just acceleration. So we'll start a crossover start.
Mm-hmm.
Facing ahead, double leg start, just really easy square stance starts.
Yeah.
The crossover starts, the half kneeling starts.
Okay.
Half kneeling lateral.
Yeah.
So you're facing the side, you're facing the front, just doing a lot of these different positions, doing a lot of get up sprints.
Yeah.
Laying on our back, laying on our stomach, laying on our side, on our butt, on our knees.
Yeah. Just
doing different things to getting those angles and working on that speed.
Okay.
So very simply, that's what I'm doing. It's a true speed day.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very short sprint with a lot of rest, trying to get to maximal sprinting.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
And so for hockey, there's not a lot of hamstring involvement in a hockey stride.
Okay.
There's some, but not a lot.
But
and
not
so
as much, yeah.
we do a lot of these sprinting drills because, what is one of the best way to train speed and improve speed? It's sprinting maximally.
Yeah.
It's not sprinting at 70%. It's sprinting maximally. I want to emphasize that. And so that's one of the best ways you can train any athlete to get faster.
Yeah.
So that's what my speed day is. It's a true speed day.
Okay.
So we're training to sprint faster.
I like that.
And I think if we can get faster at those angles on dry land, I think it applies to the ice really well. And so once we get into late summer and preseason, I'll get them on the ice, and we'll do very similar starts like that.
Okay.
And we do a lot of like partner sprints, so it's kind of a race. Mm-hmm. I like the races. We'll do some band work, the resisted and assisted band sprints.
Okay.
I wish you could do sleds on the ice, but logistically that's trouble.
That's looking for trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's very simple to me. I think train fast, and it's simple. Just get into those positions and get in the angles that you're going to be having to do it on the ice.
Okay.
And the other thing I like to do with hockey is a lot of hockey, a lot of it's not maximal speed really on the ice, it's the quickness.
Okay.
And so I sprint maximally to gain that speed, but on the ice to really make it, transferable to the game.
Yeah.
It's kind of you glide, and then if you're gliding with a dude right by you, how fast are you going to get to that loose puck 3 feet in front of you?
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff I do on the ice is very much gliding side by side, and then reaction on a whistle, get to where I'm pointing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of very much, I don't like planned agilities.
Okay.
I used to. That used to be just, hey, you have your 4-cone drill and you do this drill. Mm-hmm. Now it's, heck, let's just skate, and when I blow the whistle, you're going to go which way I'm going to point. Whoever makes it there first wins.
Yeah, yeah.
It's reactions. It has to be a reactionary thing to build that in a game, I think. I
really like that, yeah. And you don't see a lot of that.
Yeah, so it's not, there's zero planned agility on the ice. Okay. Zero. Mm-hmm. If I'm doing speed work, yes, it's planned. It's goal line to blue line. How fast can you get there? Mm-hmm. There might be some edge work and some, in the circle there, you sprint to the dot and then go left, come back right, go back to the middle, go up, skate backwards. Yeah. It's one of those kind of planned things. We'll do some of that. I guess I lied when I said there's zero. But most of my speed work has to be reactionary. If you're going to really apply it to the game, it's got to be on a whistle, got to be on a point, on a color. Yeah. Shout at a color, go towards that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I do it on the ice.
Okay. No, that's really awesome, and I like that you incorporate that, right? Because, again, true agility has that reactionary component, which a lot of people don't account for. Everyone's married to cone drills and specific patterns, right? But a lot of people don't account for that, so I think it's really, really good.
Yeah, but back in the day, it was just as long as you got that change of direction, it was okay.
Yeah.
And it still works. You can still do it. Mm-hmm. Just, it used to be the bulk of what I did. Now it's the minority of what I do. It's like, I'll do a piece of it. Maybe it'll be a good warm-up drill for my reactions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can still do it. It's not like it's the worst thing ever. You should never do it. It's just if you're not doing reactions, I don't think you're really mimicking what's happening in your sport to get them to have that same response, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. So, and you have to be able to train that response because the brain, right, you're not going to be able to train the reaction that it has in game time if you've never been exposed to it before, right? They're still going to be slow in decision making. So that's really, really good. Okay.
Said principle.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's what it is. If you don't train it, it doesn't work. It's got to be. That's why if you're competing in weightlifting, you weightlift.
Yeah.
So anyway.
No, that's good. Okay, so moving forward a little bit, right, into volleyball. So another one of your sports that you've worked with extensively. So what does the structure kind of look like for their training, and how is it similar to what you have for hockey?
It's extremely similar.
Okay.
Because weight room is weight room. We're trying to
Yeah.
get strong and powerful.
Yeah. There's only so many barbell moves, right?
Exactly. So that's my thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's early on we start linear, very
Mm-hmm.
very basic, and as soon as we get really good at those movements,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like I'm doing a mile wide, inch deep.
Yeah.
It's an inch wide, mile deep.
Yeah.
Okay, it's got to be do what you do, but do it extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not when I say triphasic and linear and undulating, it's not like there's just all this differing stuff.
Yeah.
It's just the linear into the undulating into the triphasic into the power is a
Mm-hmm.
very basic natural progression of how I train any sport.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did it with throwers. I did it with sprinters. I did it with baseball and softball. It's just a natural progression. So
Yeah.
for volleyball, what I'm saying with hockey in the weight room is very much the same with volleyball.
Okay.
I just make sure. So in hockey, I make sure the hips are solid,
Mm-hmm.
and I make sure that a lot of my mind is on the hips.
Mm-hmm.
With volleyball, a lot of my mind is on the shoulder.
Okay.
So if I do something there, it's always based on, is the shoulder forward in this exercise? I'm going to bring it back. Is it elevated? Okay, now I'm going to depress it. So
Yeah.
it's making sure that scap can move very well in all planes of motion, that it can move.
Yeah.
And I just make sure that we have a very good range of motion and we're healthy through that range of motion.
Okay.
Very simply, that's the nuances for volleyball for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. I like it.
I do double leg movements. I
Yeah.
do single leg movements.
Uh-huh.
The only thing I don't do with volleyball, I do
Yeah.
not barbell bench. I think
Okay.
that's just something,
Yeah.
that's old news.
Yeah.
But I don't do barbells with them. A lot of push-ups, a lot of dumbbells.
Okay.
But I will do jerks.
Mm-hmm.
And I will throw this out there. If you're doing jerks but you're afraid of a barbell overhead press, don't jerk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's like one of those things where you're not going to Hatfield split squat, or okay, you shouldn't,
Yeah.
without doing dumbbell first.
Yeah.
Like a progression to that. That's my thing. If you're going to do power jerks or split jerks, you better be a barbell overhead pressing to get them ready for that.
Yeah.
I stole
Simple.
that from Joe Ken a lot of
Yeah.
years ago. I saw him say that. It made a lot of sense
Yeah.
to me, and I was like, "Holy moly, that makes a lot of sense."
Yeah.
Let's continue to press if we're going to jerk. It's just
Yeah.
one of those things where you're being safe. So I can't take credit for that. I heard that from Joe Ken, and
Okay.
that's got to be at least 7 years ago now.
Yeah.
I said that, but
Yeah. No, that's
anyway.
that's just basics, right? And it's weird how we demonize certain lifts when they are in fact the basic progression to where we want to get to, right? So that's
right.
really well put.
Yeah, and so for volleyball, it's very much the same stuff.
Okay.
And the one thing that I have not done with volleyball, like I've done with hockey, is I don't emphasize the single leg strength lift as I do with hockey, but only because I don't have a safety squat bar in that room.
Yeah.
So I just haven't transitioned to that. However, you can still go. It's all relative to the exercise, right? So
Yeah.
you can still go heavy on a barbell, rear foot elevated. So we'll do that, and that lift has become an emphasis for me.
Okay.
So that's how that training has changed for me, or evolved for me,
Okay.
in the past years.
Okay.
Do a lot more single leg emphasis lifting, but
Okay.
for the most part, volleyball, it's funny how you get a lot of calls when your
Yeah.
teams are doing well, and it, a lot of that is just recruiting.
Yeah.
I don't take credit for a lot of that. It's
Yeah.
we had the horses, and they're extremely good at volleyball.
Yeah.
And they're, big emphasis for me for volleyball. Another nuance is in some sports, if you weigh 200 pounds and you weigh 200 pounds, okay, and you squat 400 and your vert is 35 inches, and then in 12 weeks you squat 300 pounds, you're 220, but your vert is the same. Is that improvement?
Yeah.
Yeah. In volleyball, is it improvement? No, because you're not jumping higher.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You're not helping the team. You're not hitting the ball high. I want to hit top of the pin.
Yeah.
And if I can't get that girl, no matter how much she weighs, no matter how much she squats, if she's not jumping higher, I'm doing her a disservice. So a lot of my nuances with volleyball is, can we jump higher? Can we get to the ball quicker? It's very less strength numbers with them. It's very much, are we getting better on the court?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is really, for me, because throwing with throwers, it was, let's get strong.
Yeah.
I'll let your throws coach do the throwing, but let's get strong. And in throwing, if you get strong, you're going to throw farther.
Yeah.
It's that simple. In volleyball, it's not always that simple. If you get stronger, you might not always jump higher.
Yeah.
So you better make sure you do those things to make them
Actually jump
jump.
higher.
If we have an outside hitter
Yeah.
that's 6'1",
Yeah.
okay, which actually in the Big Ten or in big time volleyball it's getting bigger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're not 6'3", 6'4" now,
Yeah.
it's kind of funny, right? So if you have a 6'1", 6'2", and she comes in touching 10 foot, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But in a couple of years, if she's not touching 10-4, 10-5, 10-6, you know, you need to. So anyway, that's my training for volleyball. It's
Okay.
weight room is very much the same, but the nuances of keeping the shoulder healthy, low back's feeling good, and just making sure that your indicators for that sport have got to be jumping higher and getting to that ball faster. It has to be.
Yeah.
So
okay.
that's how my training is for volleyball.
I like that. Okay. And so we talked about the weight room a little bit, but how does say that conditioning day and maybe even speed work, how does that differ, how is it the same?
It's very much the same.
Okay.
It's just that, speed is speed. And so my speed acceleration days are very much the same.
Okay.
We will do those shorter accelerations. I don't do a ton from kneeling. If I'm doing kneeling stuff, I make sure they wear their knee pads because doing it in the gym is tough.
Yeah.
It can be a little tough on the knee, but we don't have a turf over there. We just do it in the gym.
Okay. Use what you got.
So but a lot of that is tennis ball reaction drills.
Okay.
It's very simple again, but if I drop this ball, you get to it before it bounces twice.
Yeah.
And I just, over time, you just increase the distance that they have to go, and it's just one of those things. Sometimes it's a visual reaction.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have to face backwards to me.
Yeah.
And it'll be an audible reaction.
Yeah.
Most of the time I keep it visual, but my biggest point with volleyball with that speed is it's got to be reactionary, and it's got to be to the point where they can get to that ball as quick as they can. So I'm a big fan of the tennis ball reactions with volleyball. Big fan.
Yeah.
We do a lot of sleds on the conditioning day.
Okay.
Thursday's my big conditioning day, and I'm a big fan of those sleds now.
Yeah.
And there's been some years where I wanted to transition away from doing sleds. But I didn't think it would be fair to the girls that had been doing it 10 years with me.
Yeah.
That had been through that. So it's become a part of our culture and a part of that working hard of hey, this sled weighs 230 pounds and you're a 120-pound girl.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Yeah.
You're going to work through it. Everybody's doing it. It's just one of those. It's one of those mental things. One of the team building culture things for me. And week one, it's going to be hard mentally. It's so cool. The main reason why I like it so much is the getting in shape is kind of an after effect. It's going to happen. But what I love about it is the mental toughness and the confidence of week one. You have this freshman that's been with you for the season.
Yeah.
She really hasn't been through really hard training yet. Then you come back in the spring and you have these sleds now. Week one, you make them push this sled and they're dying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not literally.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an important point.
Not rhabdo, not literally.
Important point, yeah.
I have to say that in 2019.
Yeah.
But through the weeks, though, you see that girl become so much tougher and meaner.
Yeah.
You got that look in their eye.
Yeah.
That's why I love it.
Okay.
And because it's you train that mind. Train the mind. Be confident. That's the main thing that weight room and conditioning can do for them is you gain that confidence and you build that self-esteem and I think that's one of the most transferable things. If you can build confidence somewhere, it's going to bleed into other things.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm a big fan of that. Doing things that it doesn't have to be a sled, but doing things that are so hard that your body has no choice, your mind has no choice but to adapt.
Yeah. I like that.
And you, like stress on a barbell, okay? So if I'm gonna stress you with 3 sets of 2, going really heavy and grinding through that sometimes, you've got to grind mentally to build that. And I think that's what some of these sports have an edge on is we're extremely mentally tough.
Yeah.
And I do think that's something you can train.
Yeah.
I do, and there might be some people that disagree with that, but you might be tough, you just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
But you have to push yourself there to learn how to be tough. And then you start learning how to shrug things off. Like, they scored a point, no big deal.
Yeah.
Let's move.
Yeah.
I think that comes from that mental toughness, and I think it comes through really hard training. I'm sorry, man, I'm rambling. But what's one of the best team building things is doing something extremely hard.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's got to be at a time where you can recover from it, because you do have to recover from those things.
Yeah, we must be intelligent about it, yeah.
Yeah, but that's just another thing with volleyball and hockey is we're going to do things to real. It's going to be hard. It's not a country club, man.
Yeah.
Like the idea is to stress the system.
Yeah.
And then recover from that and move on. So anyway, that's really how I train speed for volleyball.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that. And I think the tangents are cool because it gives us more of a look into what's actually happening, right? A snapshot. And so kind of with that, right, generally speaking, you talked about sleds, but generally speaking, do you have a system or any way that you kind of calculate weight on sleds, or what does that kind of look like for you? Is that different for different teams, or is that more kind of a feel thing?
The weight on the sled differs because it's a feel thing. And the sleds for volleyball is on the gym floor, so the feet are carpeted. Mm-hmm. There's less friction, so that weight has to be, we'll get up to doing 250 pounds on the sled. Okay. For the volleyball girls. Yeah. We'll push it a full court, so the length of the court, we'll push it down and back. That's your rep, and we'll work up to doing about 8 to 10 reps. Okay. And there's at least 4 girls in a group. Yeah. So we'll get a little bit of rest, but that's it for that. But the Sornex sleds that we use with hockey on the indoor football turf. Yeah. I'm only putting a 45-pound plate on there max because it just doesn't slide. Yeah. So the weight, when it's a conditioning day, I want the weight to be something that it's going to be extremely hard to finish. Yeah. I got you. The entire workout, right? The entire workout. Mm-hmm. If it's a speed day and I'm using sleds, that weight is going to be extremely light. Yeah. Because again, you have to move fast to train speed. Mm-hmm. Correct. And so if I'm using that sled on the let's say it for the volleyball sled. Yeah. That same sled on that same floor, I will only put probably 85 to 95 pounds on there. Okay. So they can move that sled, sprinting with the sled. Okay. Yeah. If it's a contrast speed day, then I'll put that weight back up to about 150, 200 pounds. Okay. And then we'll sprint away from it. So it'll be more of a contrast. Okay. So it's kind of how you want to do your day. If it's a true speed, if it's a contrast, if it's an aerobic day, it depends on the day and your training effect. A lot of factors, just like every answer, right? Like in training, it just depends. Yeah. It depends. So I like that. Okay. And then moving forward into this, the last few segments here. So, what are some resources that have had a big impact on you? Like whether it's a book or a seminar, something like that. Well, I think early on in my writing, up until triphasic, I think the way that I wrote earlier was just, John and I, Coach Sanderson and I would have a sheet of our movements, right? Yeah. Horizontal push, horizontal pull, vertical pull, etc. Yeah. And we would write our programs and check the box. Okay. If you got your movements, you were good. Yeah. And that was a pretty good way of doing it. I, still essentially do that, but then I read Joe Can's Strength Training Playbook and the tier system, and that was such a cool book because it was so applicable to what we do. And it was just a very well thought out, very solid plan of here's your emphasis movements, of how you rotate things throughout the week and through the day. Yeah. And here's your emphasis lift, and here's how you're going to have an auxiliary lift and a supplemental lift for that. Yeah. So I like the training of here's what we want to get good at, and here's how we're going to make that better. And I just thought it checked all the boxes in a way of making dang sure you're checking all the boxes and doing it extremely well. I like that. And it was more of, back when I did the tier system, it was more of a linear periodization back then, but it was kind of undulating in a way for certain movements. Okay. So I don't want to get too complicated there, but that book was great for me personally. Okay. And then the other one was Christian Thibodeau's work. His Black Book of Training Secrets is great. Yeah. And then getting into Cal Dietz's Triphasic. Okay. Obviously, most recently has been a big influence on me, and being able to work in hockey and traveling back to Minnesota a couple times a year, being able to talk to him twice a year at least has been really good for me, and in terms of learning that and how to really progress that. And I've kind of evolved in doing a little bit different of how to progress some things, but that's just situationally. But in terms of seminars, I like what Joe DeMayo's doing. I like what he's doing a lot. Yeah. He's putting out some great content. He's been doing it for a while now, and the manual. He's doing some good stuff. So I think that is really good. And then some more recent stuff. Obviously, social media is really big. Agreed. And I don't really use it to push what I'm doing. I'm not the biggest on sharing, which I feel. I just don't share a ton. But the guys that I really like watching right now. Vernon Griffith is putting excellent stuff. Yeah. Excellent stuff on hips and hip mobility. Yeah. And Alan Bishop at Houston's doing some great things.
Yeah.
Joey Burgles.
Yeah.
The FRC things he's sharing is just so valuable.
Yeah.
Those guys are putting out some great content, just to be a name dropper. But, like Mike Chapman at Towson's put out some great stuff and how he incorporates some movements into being a basketball player. And other guys like Ralph Badu. Like, these guys are putting out some great stuff on Twitter. And I think that if people aren't following them, they're missing out for sure.
Yeah.
But that's really what books and more current resources are really what I look into right now.
Excellent. Okay. And then moving into this last segment, right? Just a few questions. So the first one being, if you have any, what are some quotes that you live by?
Well, I think one that I've always lived by is actually from the Bible, Hebrews 12:11.
Okay.
Talks about discipline.
Yeah.
No discipline at the time is pleasant. Yeah. It's painful.
Yeah.
But I think what it says is it harvests of a harvest of peace, of righteousness for those who've been trained by it.
Yeah.
I just always liked that it said discipline.
Yeah.
It's painful. You're trained by it.
Yeah.
But it's going to yield some great results when you make it. I love that. I've always kind of lived through that ever since one of the toughest dudes I ever met in my life was my best man. I wrestled with him at Wyoming.
Yeah.
He's the one who showed me that, and it's really helped me through a lot.
Okay.
Some other things is you're either coaching it or you're letting it happen.
Yeah.
I always like that. If you keep doing what you've done, you'll always get what you've always got.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I think one that I really like is from Coach Rose. He said, "You don't win because you have won. You win because you continue to do the things that got you there." So huge. I think that speaks a lot to sometimes when you win, you can kind of get jaded and kind of get complacent. And it's funny how that can happen.
Yeah.
But it can happen, and if you're not careful, you really need to continue to do those things that got you there. So never be complacent. Always evolve. Do those things right. Work hard. So those are some things that I really live by are those kind of quotes. I really have liked that.
Okay, I like that. So next question being, what is the best advice that you've ever been given?
The best advice really is kind of cliche in a way. The cliche is follow your dream, but in my own words is, you want something, you got to go get it. Yeah. You want something, go get it. That's the best advice that anybody ever told me was that. Okay. And just kind of learning through there, you just don't be afraid. You want it, you go get it. Yeah. And if it doesn't work, it will work out. Yeah. In the end. So that was some great advice to me was just, you got to go get it. If you're not going to go get it, it ain't coming for you. So that was big for me. Okay. That was really big for me.
So in contrast to that, what's the worst advice you've ever been given?
Really, I don't think I've ever been given terrible advice. Okay. Just advice that I was able to take into account, and maybe it was one of those things that I didn't use. Yeah. It's hard to pinpoint that, but really, I just like to take that advice and, like, if I'm having a big decision to make, you either use it or you don't. So I'm not sure there's something I can put my finger on. It's just the worst advice just might have been something I just didn't use. Yeah, which is good.
Yeah. Okay. Then the last question kind of being, what projects are you currently working on, and how can people kind of reach out to you and follow your journey?
Right now, just working on some summer things, but I'm actually something that's brand new, like in the last couple days, brand new. I think I'm going to be putting out some online coaching things. If anybody's
let's go, man,
plug. I don't mean to plug this here. I don't want to plug it.
Yeah, okay.
I don't, but but I might be putting some online stuff for weightlifting. Yeah. And maybe some hockey and volleyball stuff. But
really exciting, yeah.
On top of that, my social media stuff, I'm mostly active on Instagram, but Instagram, Twitter is Cam Davidson 94. Okay. If people are interested, they can go follow me there.
Excellent. So. Well, Coach, thank you so much for your time. This has been great. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to connecting again soon in the future.
Great. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.